Hi, this is Chuck at Lazarus Recovery Podcast, and this is episode 4, and I'm introducing this in a sort of new way. The previous episode, I read part of the big book, Alcoholics Anonymous. Well, this is Lazarus Recovery Podcast at the junction of faith and recovery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use alternate episodes to read portions of the texts that come, and it turns out that for faith, the text is the Bible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a portion and chop it up a little bit and do a little explanation of it. So this is probably the one where the recovery people are going to head for cover and the faith people are going to stick around a little bit. But this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to read a little bit of it, and I'm going to read the whole portion. I might edit a lot out, but I want you to hear some of it. It's going to be a little difficult to listen to for the recovery people, but this is the junction of faith and recovery. And I want to sort of explain what I'm reading. So the book I'm reading from is Proverbs. It's in the Old Testament, Psalms and Proverbs. So in the middle of the Old Testament, you can find it. I'm reading out of the New International Version, and I'll explain versions, in coming episodes. But right now, I like the NIV. And I'll read out of the NIV. So this is Proverbs 1, and I'm starting at verse 7. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise freedom. Then I skip to verse 22. How long will you who are simple love your simple ways? How long will mockers delight in mockery and fools hate knowledge? Repent at my rebuke. Then I will pour out my thoughts to you, and I will make known to you my teachings. But since you refuse to listen when I call, and no one pays attention when I stretch out my hand, since you disregard all my advice and do not accept my rebuke, I will, in turn, will laugh when a disaster strikes you. I will mock when calamity overtakes you. When calamity overtakes you like a storm, when disaster sweeps over you like a whirlwind, when distress and trouble overwhelm you, then they will call to me, but I will not answer. They will look for me, but will not find me. Since they hated knowledge and did not choose to fear the Lord, since they would not accept my advice and spurn my rebuke, they will eat the fruit of their ways and be filled with the fruit of their schemes. For the waywardness of the simple will kill them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will live in safety and be at ease without fear of harm. This is pretty tough stuff, and I'm sure if you're in recovery, I don't recognize that higher power, and I get that, but I think that the New Testament is obviously a little easier to handle in some cases, but in others it's tough. That's why there are so many flavors of Christianity, because people, have to sort of moderate the Bible truth so that it's able to be swallowed by people. But my opinion is, it's like, we just need to grapple with what is there. And if you want to understand, recovery people want to understand faith people, they got to understand that at least the Christian crew, if you understand the Bible, you can understand them, and you got to understand the way faith people take the Bible. The conservative ones take it as, the literal voice of God. In other words, they take it as truth. and then they take it that their job is to interpret, swallow that truth, metabolize it, and act on it. Like I talked last time about recovery is, coming to know the truth, metabolizing it, and then acting upon the truth that you understand. Well, if you want to understand Christian faith people, you got to understand that they're basically in some form or fashion trying to, metabolize and absorb the Bible and apply it in their lives. So if you want to understand them, you can say, you got to understand the Bible. And then you say, well, that shows that they're idiots because they believe all this stuff. Well, you got to be a little careful because, how do you know that what they're saying isn't true? That's the wrinkle. You're betting that God can't have the power and intelligence to speak coherently to human beings. We say, well, it's not real. You just go online and go to YouTube and you can get a million, YouTube videos about how screwed up it is, and it's no good and it's bogus and everything like that. And you're going to notice that they take that step in order, not because they're mad at God or anything like that. It's not that they're mad at God or anything like that. They're just not comfortable with the direction the Bible's going in. It impinges on stuff that they're doing. It creates problems for their understanding of the way things are, and that's just a pain. It's pain for everybody, but in certain populations, the Bible is a real problem, and I completely understand why people get so frustrated with it, because they're cemented to a way of thinking and acting and doing, and the Bible collides with them, and I get it completely. It's the Bible is uncomfortable for everybody, but more uncomfortable some than others. And, so I'm going to go through a few of the little things that it said, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we'll move on to a story and some other stuff. But this whole thing is, I think, an explanation of why there's a division and a divide between recovery people and faith people, especially Christian people. Now, there are some Christian persuasions that have basically sort of, accepted the fact that they like to think of, they take what they know as the Spirit of God, and they just basically drive everything that's against their understanding of God under a low bridge, and that's the way they run their particular flavor of Christian. And you can find them. It's not hard. You can find a Christian fellowship that basically is going to be sort of heavy on, oh, God must be wonderful, and a little light on the stuff that's in the Bible. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll probably get in trouble. I'll talk a little bit about it. The signs of where you can find people that, edge a little off the literal interpretation and more off their own idea of how they think God would really be. But just for Proverbs, and that's what I'm going to talk out of Proverbs, because it's sort of cool. But it said I highlighted the verse. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, and fools despise wisdom and instruction. That is hard to deal with. That's a hard piece to bite. But if you're going to understand the junction between faith and recovery, you got to understand this particular verse and how it's applied. It says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Conservative faith people believe the Bible and believe God and believe he is the way he is. They believe that God doesn't bend to our opinions. It's his opinion that matters. And coming to God is changing our mind about what we think about things. It turns out that changing our mind is basically an interpretation of the word repent. And repent is the sort of the, come to Jesus, turn your life and your will over, repent and be saved. That's the repent word they're talking about. It's basically changing your mind and moving your whole life in a different direction. Not exactly what you want to hear. A drunk getting sober, or an addict getting sober, he just doesn't want the consequences of his actions, but he wants to be able to do what he wants. I've had it, in my early days in Christendom and everything like that. I knew a guy, I was in AA, and I knew a guy, and he went to a Billy Graham crusade, and he gave his hat to the Lord. He was full deal saved and everything like that, and so he was willing to go to a Bible study. But then he sat through one, maybe one and a half, and then he disappeared because not too quickly afterwards he realized that his lifestyle was being challenged. He was a nice guy, but he was very serial about the physical relationships he got into with women in the program. And anybody in the program knows that somebody, their name, their place, their habits, and that's not unusual. Some people are just that way. They're very serial about their physical relationships with the opposite sex, or some are they go for the same sex, but they don't consider serial non-monogamous relationships as being a problem. So naturally they collide with the Bible, and most situations they're out the door. And that's what the word does. And you can say it's the word's fault, or you can say it's not acceptable. And if you say it's not acceptable, then you're going to have to do a little heavy shopping to find a Christian fellowship that is going to fit your choices that you insist on keeping and doing. But that's what faith and recovery differences are, and that's why, the Bible is so offensive, because it draws lines that, a lot of people just do not want to draw, because it takes away options. It's simple. It takes away options. And you say, well, it's the Bible's fault. And there are people, and there are whole church denominations and ways of going about it that eliminate that unpleasant, unacceptable thing about it. They say, well, God is all love, and he doesn't do that. Well, at the junction of faith and recovery, you're going to have to realize that when you go the faith way, at least the Christian faith way, you're going to collide with that. You even go a Muslim way, you're going to get a lot, so they're very religious, and so there are no's there too. So, the thing of the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, beginning of knowledge, and fools despise wisdom and instruction. That's Bible. That's Bible. If you come to the Lord, you're going to have to sit down, hold your nose, and eat that. You might not accept it, but you got to allow God to say what He wants to say. So this is why Proverbs is so good. It challenges you in places you don't want to be challenged. How long will you who are simple love your simple ways? It's saying, just, in a very secular way, how long are you going to be stupid? Because you're going to beat your brains in demanding that I be who you are, and I ain't that guy. He said, you're going to have to come to grips with the fact that I am who I am, and you're the one that's going to have to take a deep breath and metabolize that and decide that, you're the guy that rules, I don't rule. The benefit of that is that you got a guy that can. God can and will do what He wants to do. And, the Bible claims He's all powerful, and you got to come to grips with that and figure out whether that's true. The Bible is saying, you believe this or not? Are you going to act on that belief? That's sort of where faith is. Are you going to act on this? Or are you going to at least try to act on it? That's the dilemma. Regular secular recovery is a little more easygoing. They have their do's and their don'ts, but they certainly, in my years in AA, they're pretty open-minded to people of creative faith, and there's moral things. It's like, that you can find the sort of moral baseline in AA and NA, but it's not a biblical baseline. It is simply a reasonably popular moral baseline. Don't be an idiot. Don't be a fool. Don't be selfish. Don't be stupid. In other words, do not be and I can't use the word. It's basically, in recovery circles, a new person, at least in AA, was called a pigeon. And there was a habit among some men and some women of hanging by the door when a new people came in. They'd swoop in and basically wow them with their recovery, and then, start in relationships with them that really weren't a good idea, that were destructive and dangerous, and often those people left in disgust and then died of their addiction. So it's not a pretty picture. And we had a word for that, and I can't use the words, because they'll throw me off. But it was not a compliment. It was not a compliment. And it shows you that AA had morals. Their morals were basically, don't care what you do, but don't drink, don't use. And if you do stuff that hurts somebody else staying sober, then we're not with you. And that whole thing of people preying on newly sober people to gratify themselves was, a bridge too far for recovery people. Understandably so. So there was morality in recovery circles, but it circled a little bit around, we only have one thing: we don't drink, we don't use, or we don't use drugs. That's the basic baseline of morality. We're here to not drink, not use, and not die. And if you get in the way of that, then you're not good, and we're gonna come down on you. But God's saying, I have my ways, and when you don't do it my way, the whole thing is going to fall apart because it's just not going to work. So So that's the junction of faith and recovery. That is the difference. And inevitably you're going to have to decide whether something is outrageous. And I use the word outrageous not because I believe it's outrageous, but because I think that it is something you got to come to grips with, because, the Bible is going to say things that you, even in recovery, you're going to say are completely outrageous, And it's one of those things, like Jesus said, he said some stuff that was really hard to deal with. You got to eat my flesh and drink my blood. And they were like, whoa, we're done. We're out of here. He says, what are you doing? Just because I say I eat my flesh and drink my blood, you're going to bolt. Where are you going to go? And their answer was, where can we go? Where can we go? No one has the words of life that you have. They didn't say like what he said. They just said, where are we going to go? Who does what you do? And that's the issue for all of us. Who does what he does? Not just then, but now. If you walk along with the Lord, you see some stuff that you go, whoa, I have no explanation for that. I have none. I have zero. As you walk with him, he reveals himself just the way he did for the disciples. They walked along with him and he revealed himself. You walk along with him for a while and you're going to have stories. Whoa, how did that happen? What is that? Whoa, who is this that does that? Who can do that? Who can do that? And that's usually the story for people that decide, even temporarily, to walk with him, to give him a chance to walk along with him. It's generally, whoa, I have no explanation for that. I don't understand. I never got free from that before, ever. There was no hope. All I wanted to do was drink and use and postpone death for a while, and that was my expectation. And then I asked God in my life, and then Jesus comes in my life, and then, what? Wait a minute. That doesn't happen. It does happen. Then you start reading the Bible and you start saying, okay, well, let me just work with me here. And that's the process. Recovery people, they're pretty much, God without definition. And God works with that. He does. But, that's the difference between faith and recovery, Christian faith and recovery. Now, I get it completely. You say, yeah, but I know Christians. And I say, trust me, I've been in a church for 40 years, and I grew up in a church. Trust me, you can't look at Christians and judge Jesus' character. It's impossible because, oh God, it is impossible. The Jesus I've found, it's just, you just go, oh, it's a faceplant. It's like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. These are professing Christians that are being utterly stupid and utterly embarrassing and downright awful. But the funny thing is that, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because behind it all is the Savior. And as you learn from him, it changes you, And as hard as it's been for me to walk these years in a Christian church with all the craziness, I've never known Jesus to fail. Ever, 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 ever. I'm a little bit too much Jesus here, and I apologize. But the Bible does that, It's like, oh my God, this is awful. Oh my God, this is awful. And then you think about it a little bit, you chew a little bit about it, and then all of a sudden, the compass starts to swing. And it swings, and then all of a sudden, you realize that, oh my God, it's pointing at Jesus. No, that can't be true. And you go off and you do a bunch of stuff. And then another time, you're studying the Bible and you're thinking about it. And all of a sudden, not against your will, all of a sudden you realize it's swung and it's pointing directly at Jesus. And you go, there's something here. And that is what it is all about. That is what it's all about. If you give the Lord a half a chance, he'll prove himself. I didn't mean to do this. I'm trying to stay away from doing this proselytizing thing. But, you're an AA person. You're an NA person. You're just a God as I understand him person, which is great. But I dare you. I absolutely, utterly dare you in the hardness of your unbelieving about Jesus' heart, in the coldness of it. I don't believe in Jesus. I don't believe it's never going to happen. But Jesus, who I know is not there, if you're there, could you please show me? I don't believe it, but show me. The funny thing is, he will. And then you're in a bit of a bind because, all your disagreement and disbelief and stuff is challenged by, an insertion of something that you just didn't expect. And that's going to be a problem. That trust me, it is difficult because you're whooped and beaten and you have he never forces anything. He never forces a thing. There's no, I'm going to leverage you. You're going to blah, 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 blah. He says, it's up to you, completely up to you. You asked me and I showed you. Now, what are you going to do? I'm not going to chase you. You asked me. Now, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? I'm not going to do anything. Okay, fine. Great. Good. Okay. But then you talk to him and you have a conversation with him. It leaves something. It doesn't leave a mark. It doesn't leave a scar. It leaves us a hunger. It leaves a yearning. It leaves something not bad, not forced, just damn. And so you go back and you ask him, maybe I'm still free, but just what's going on? And that sweet, quiet, spiritual voice comes into your spirit and talks some more, and you go, okay. Yeah, okay. And if you're honest, you just want to keep up the conversation. And he doesn't force you or anything. You just keep up the conversation, And then after a while, it's like, yeah, okay. And a sort of this quiet desire builds, and you say, okay, Lord, fine, okay. And you talk to some people. You say, okay, I guess, and you finally turn your will and your life over to him, and you don't feel trapped. He says, hey, Lord, he said, you can walk away anytime you want. But very soon it's like you wouldn't think of walking away. Why would I walk away from something that gives and empowers so much, causes changes, but it's there's no coercion, there's no nothing, there's just a growing want to know him better, and I didn't mean to do this. I didn't mean to do this at all. I want to be very low key about this, but it was, when you look at the word and the word is like, oh my God, what's that? Then you have to start to think about it, and that's where it leads. I chased a girl into a prayer meeting. I really wanted the girl really bad. She wasn't good for me, but I wanted it, sort of my pattern. But I didn't get the girl, but I got the Lord. And, I haven't regretted it. He's been there in every trouble that I've had. He's carried me through and everything. But, that's what recovery is about. Recovery is about discovering truth and acting on it. Well, one of the major truths you discover is the fact that, damn, what if this Jesus thing is real? Absent the fact that Christians sometimes are absolute idiots. It gets to the point, finally you get to the point, I don't care whether Christians are idiots. Jesus is not an idiot. The only problem with Christians is they don't follow Jesus. But, I want him. I want him and his spirit and his thing acting actively in my life. And I'm going to ignore the foolishness of Christians. And I'm going to go and seek Jesus out, and then you find out he's real. He's real. And irregardless of the foolishness of professing Christians, who are, completely idiots these days. It is like amazingly the idiocy of the thing. But it hasn't changed Jesus at all. So that is, I think, episode 4. Yes, I think episode 4. I couldn't go more than 4 episodes without doing a hardcore Jesus thing. I apologize. I'll try to be better next time. Doubt it, but so that's a pretty hardcore Jesus thing. And I can't guarantee you that every time you go to a Jesus person, you're going to get something nice. They're going to come and dump on you. They're going to come and lay a trip on you. They're going to tell you you can't do this and you can't do that. You can do anything you want. The problem is that, you can't guarantee the consequences of what you do. I want to do what I want to do, but I don't want any consequences. Nobody in their right mind that knows Jesus can tell you that. It is, Christian faith is all about consequences, guarantees and consequences, saved by grace through faith. Isn't that the epitome of consequences? Isn't that the epitome of, God providing a way not to have the consequences we deserve? You say, well, what have I most guys in the program think I'm great. Yeah. Okay. Most of the guys in the program don't have contacts with the eternal thing either. Most of the guys in the program don't have even the vision beyond, they can envision their first breath and their last breath. Anything beyond that, they have no authority to say boo about. So, your sponsor says it's not a problem, stay away from Jesus. Fine. Does he have a hold after his last breath? Not really. Not really at all. I mean, he'd like to think so, but he really doesn't. So it's recovery, secular recovery is right now surviving and not dying. That's what secular recovery is. It's operationally finding a way not to die from addiction or whatever and taking one more breath. That's what secular recovery is. And they're very good at it and living a life second to none between the first breath and the last breath. They are excellent at it. You will get a life second to none between the first breath and the last breath. Absolutely not a problem. It's a given. You follow their program, you go with them and you do, and you're faithful, you ask for help and do the thing. You will have a life second to none between the first breath and the last breath. Absolutely guaranteed. Utterly guaranteed. But they have no ability to guarantee after the last breath. They have no guarantee. Nobody really has it. I mean, that's where you have to start thinking, well, if the Bible is true, then Jesus says, he basically, you come to me, I'm eternal, you're eternal. That's the thing, and, the consequences of your action, are absorbed by your trusting me. Doesn't make any sense, but, if he's alive, he took his last breath and he's alive, and he proves it to you, he's alive. So you got to sort of say, hey, and then when you come to him, he reassures you and reestablishes and proves to you that he's able to do that. It's always faith. It's always like, saved by grace through faith. Works don't do it. It's saved by grace through faith. Believing on him and him alone, that whole thing. It's theology. But what are you going to do? Seriously, what are you going to do? A secular recovery life second to none is only about between the first breath and the last breath. That's all it is. And they're, this is what it is. But then there's that thing that says, they talk at funerals. It's like, he died sober or she died sober, which is like sort of saying, well, if they're sober and God kept them sober, then they must have favor. And, I it was one of those things, oh, he died sober, so he must be okay because God must have kept him sober. So he must be okay with God. Okay. That's the way you want to go about it. Fine. Good. Christians are going to have a little bit of a problem with that, but then they have a lot of problem with a lot of things. But, it's better to find and experience who Jesus is for real and then come to realize that, yeah, he is a guy that can say, if he says, I'm going to prepare a place for you, then you can take it to the bank because he doesn't lie. And he has the power to make it happen. So you can take that to the bank, but you don't know that you can take it to the bank because you haven't ever come to him and experienced the new life that he reinforces day at a time, week at a time, month at a time, year at a time. Yeah. Saved by grace through faith, and he has the keys of heaven and hell and stuff. It's a thing. So, My thing is don't drink, go to a meeting, ask Jesus for help. And I know you're probably not going to come back after that one. I can't do it any other way. It's just simply, I want to tell you the difference between, faith and recovery, and the types of faith, the types of recovery, and give you the information to make the decision. But this is sort of what I believe, and it's Proverbs tells you, at the, at the very end, they will call to me, but I will not answer. They will look for me, but will not find me, since they hated knowledge and did not choose to fear the Lord, since they would not accept my advice, spurn my rebuke. They will eat the fruit of their ways and be filled with the fruit of their schemes. For the waywardness of the simple will kill them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. But whoever listens to me will live in safety and be at ease without fear of harm. That's a heck of a promise, and that's an Old Testament promise. That's an Old Testament promise. So this is Chuck at Lazarus Recovery Podcast, and I just want you to, be blessed. And I think I'm not supposed to be where I am. Thank you. Bye-bye.